wonder how 20-somethings on TV are able to hang out with their friends in the middle of the day, spend all their time in a bar, fly to a wedding in Italy, and still pay their rent and student loans on time? Because that's impossible in the real world.
Finally, MTV Decoded tackling the important issues.
The past few years have shown some progress towards addressing the lack of racial and ethnic diversity in Hollywood.
So they show a photo of the cast of Star Wars Rogue One? Okay. But you'd think that a channel that preaches about ethnic diversity would cast their reality shows with some, ethnic diversity.
But there's one representation issue that's been ignored for a while, and that's class. Working class and lower class lifestyles are rarely depicted accurately in media or film, if at all.
Working class and lower class lifestyles are rarely depicted accurately in media or film, if at all.
And when about 1/3 of Americans identify as working class and about 15% live below the poverty line, we shouldn't ignore the economic realities for those in lower income brackets.
So what are you suggesting? That we make more drama and comedy that revolve around being poor as fuck? People want an escape from their reality and be entertained, not reminded that their life sucks dick.
And to help me explain why this disparity between Hollywood and reality matters, I've invited my friend Gabe Gonzalez.
Thanks, Francesca. First, let's be clear about what we mean when we say class. It's not a judgment value, but a way to explain how our economy and culture are stratified.
Oof, Gabe's receding hairline is unfortunate because he really needs a different hairstyle to take away the focus from those ears. May I suggest a hat? Okay, moving on.
The problem with movies and TV is that it seems like just about everybody lives in a world where money and time are no object. But not only is it dishonest about the way most Americans live, it sets unrealistic expectations. Let's take a look at some of the worst offenders.
There's no better way to be introduced to the world than being carried in by 4 gold men. Diamonds everywhere, diamond everything.
Everything's gonna be gold, like the chains in the grill. Gold shoes.
My car obviously has to be custom. Like, I'm not gonna drive a basic thing.
Oh, sorry, I rolled the wrong clip. But let's see what the real problem is.
Have you ever noticed how big the houses on TV are? The home where Modern Family shot their series recently sold for $2.3 million.
Actually, the asking price was $2.35 million. The house sold for $2.15 million. Regardless, Gabe and Decoded are not factoring in one of the biggest reasons the price of the home is so high in real life. The producers of Modern Family shoot exteriors of the house for the show, and that brings in extra income for the owner.
Anyone want to explain how the Dunphy parents keep paying that mortgage with 3 kids and only 1 working parent?
Yes. In Modern Family land, Claire's father is rich, so it's possible that he helped with that down payment. And while Phil can be a bumbling salesman, when push comes to shove, he has proven to be a very successful realtor. Also, it's not a 1 working parent home. Claire went back to work and is the CEO of her dad's business. And since the house was bought by the Dunphys 20 years ago, it probably wasn't that expensive.
The crew of friends on How I Met Your Mother take turns living in a 2-bedroom that would probably cost at least $3,000 or more a month based on location.
Which might seem doable if you're splitting it with someone.
They can afford it because they split it. It's an architect and a lawyer sharing the rent. I think that they should be able to scrape by. Besides, didn't that show end years ago?
If you want to rent the Friends apartment in Manhattan, without the convenient rent control, it would probably cost over $5,000 a month.
They can only afford it because of the rent control. The apartment was Monica's grandmother's.
So this place is really my grandmother's. I got it from her when she moved to Florida. Otherwise, I could never afford a place like this.
I'm gonna call the landlord and tell him that Monica is illegally subletting her grandmother's apartment.
Anyway, no one moves to New York and expects to find a gem like this.
Ask any barista or line cook in New York, and that's definitely out of their price range.
Hey, idiot! Monica wasn't a line cook, she was an executive chef throughout the series. And Rachel wasn't a barista, she was a waitress.
You're a terrible, terrible waitress. Really, really awful.
A waitress who eventually became a fashion coordinator and finally an executive at Ralph Lauren. So if Monica made upwards of $82,000 as an executive chef and Rachel made $57,000 as a fashion coordinator, they could afford to rent an apartment for as much as $3,600 a month, well within what Monica's rent-controlled apartment probably cost. And that's not adjusting for inflation, because remember, Friends premiered 24 years ago.
Or how about the fact that Lorelai on Gilmore Girls works as the manager of an inn and can afford a $2.8 million home?
That's not Lorelai Gilmore's house. That's her house, and it is not a $2.8 million home. Great research, Gabe. I did a search on Realtor.com and found that similar homes in the approximate area of where Stars Hollow would be located are closer to $500,000. But again, that's not counting for inflation, as Lorelai would have bought the home in the 1990s.
And yet she's constantly upset at her wealthy parents for helping her out financially?
Well, that's wrong, because the only time Lorelai asks her parents for money in the entire series was in the pilot when she needed help paying for her daughter Rory's private school.
It's not for me, it's for Rory. And I fully intend to pay you back every cent. I don't ask for favors, you know that.
Oh yes, we know.
I'm getting a sense that Gabe has never seen an episode of Gilmore Girls, let alone any of the other TV shows he's commented on. Lorelai Gilmore's parents are rich as fuck. And since Lorelai insists on being working class, it creates conflict, which in turn entertains the audience.
I found a good job.
As a maid, with all your brains and talent.
I worked my way up. I run the place now. I built a life on my own with no help from anyone.
Thanks for paying for a lifestyle that I, an adult, can in no way afford. Mom and Dad, I still hate you.
Confirmed. Never seen an episode. Fuck you, Gabe.
And look, I get it. TV and film is always a little larger than life.
Clearly you don't, because you're making a case against people in TV shows having nice things.
Shows like The Honeymooners or All in the Family not only tackled issues regarding class and income, but took place in living rooms that actually looked like they belonged to Americans who worked for a living.
Gee, Gabe, you couldn't have picked different TV shows that didn't feature a bigot.
The only people nowadays can afford live-in help are rich people and Jews.
Not all Jewish people are rich.
I never knew one that wasn't.
Or a man that would verbally threaten to beat his wife every episode.
One of these days. One of these days. Pow! Right in the kiss.
And the Honeymooners weren't realistic. Look at the dirty walls of their apartment. You think an opinionated woman like Alice Cramden would have put up with that shit?
Fast forward to today, and we've got sitcoms like Two Broke Girls, where broke apparently means you can work as a waitress while owning a horse.
It's not that expensive. Technically, if you have the space, you can feed a horse for around $100 a month.
Affording a giant apartment.
They live in Brooklyn in an illegal sublet.
And working toward your dream of opening a cupcake shop.
So if you're working class, you aren't allowed to have dreams or try to overcome your class status because that's unrealistic? Got it.
And sure, it's an absurd comedy that sometimes satirizes privilege, but it also speaks to our shifting ideas of what qualifies as broke.
How? How is this shifting anyone's ideas? You point out that it's an absurd comedy. No one is taking it seriously. Speaking of absurd, have you seen this guy's arms? They're hairier than his head.
Working class schlubs like Homer on The Simpsons or Doug on The King of Queens are often depicted as lazy men complacent with their class status. It's easier for us to accept their supposed failures because they deserve it. They simply haven't worked hard enough or don't want to.
A minute ago, Gabe was bitching about the Two Broke Girls wanting to overcome their working class status. Now he's complaining that TV characters who are content with their status are lazy. What the fuck, Gabe? And Gabe has his facts wrong. Again, Homer wasn't complacent. He was constantly trying to overcome his working class status, like when he started his own snowplowing business.
Call Mr. Plow. That's my name. That name again is Mr. Plow.
Or wanted to become an astronaut. And Doug from The King of Queens worked the same job for the entire run of the show. That's not lazy, that's being responsible and providing for your family. I can't believe that I'm defending The King of Queens.
And look, not every show needs to tackle the truths behind class division and economic inequality.
Of course not, but there are plenty of shows currently on the air that feature the realities of the working class struggle. And don't worry everyone, MTV's got you covered.
Came out the window, I was like, Sweet 16, like, where are you, you know? Oh my God, I need to come in a helicopter. My Sweet 16 has to be bigger than my wedding. It has to be bigger than everything. I want either a Mercedes G-Wagon or the BMW i8 or Maserati convertible.
I'm talking.
Don't you baby me like this, all right?
I'm
You
talking.
can talk to me like an
You
adult,
wanna think
all
that
right?
you're this big?
You can talk to me like an adult, all right, woman? Nielsen needs to be very thankful that she's not a dude right now because I would literally deck her. I'm pissed. You're old as get out of here. What are you talking about? You! Get the out of here, bitch. I'm gonna say, hey, get your boyfriend. I'll beat him. How about that? I'll beat your boyfriend the I'll beat your boyfriend the You think I'm scared of you?
Fuck you, MTV. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.